There are certain events that once that event happens, you're never the same again. We've seen that in our country. We see that in our lives and individually. Once something happens, the way you look at the world is never the same again. Today is December 7th, and I believe 76 years ago, some of you math majors can check me on this, something happened to America that had not happened since 1812. We were attacked by a major world power who wanted to go to world war with us. That happened in 1812 when we fought the British, and that was the last time that happened until December 7th, 1941, when the Empire of Japan attacked us. And there's a gentleman, he's still alive, he lives here in Powell, Wyoming, just over south of the hospital, and he was at Pearl Harbor. He's 90, well, last time I saw him, he was 96. He's either 97 or 98 now. But he served on a vessel. He wasn't, obviously wasn't killed or whatever, but he served on a vessel that was present in Pearl Harbor 76 years ago. Now, when that attack happened, it was a Sunday morning just like today. America was at rest. America was at peace with the world as far as we knew. And after that point, things have never been the same in America since. We had a small army, a small navy back in the day. We didn't go around policing everybody's conflict in the whole planet. We weren't prepared to fight a war on two fronts, like across two oceans. But since that time, for the last 76 years, we have been. Similar thing happened on 9/11. We had not been attacked in a major way on American soil. And then 9/11 happened, and things changed radically. And when those things happen, the way you approach life, the way as a group we approach life is different. Those are pivotal moments in our history. We change our outlook on life. Remember when you got married? Something about you can kiss the bride, and then you realize, oh my goodness, what have I done? You know, we've crossed the Rubicon. We've gone from being a single person who, you know, had control over our lives to now we share that with somebody else. It's a whole different thing, right? It's an event that changes how you perceive the world. Some of you are laughing, some of you are crying at that illustration. We can have a counseling session or whatever afterwards if you want to. For those of you who are parents, guys, I don't know what it's like for the ladies, but I know that when you hear the words, honey, we're pregnant, you're not really sure who we're is, but somehow something has changed. You know, you've gone across this event. Well, the reason I quit preaching where I did and didn't finish the chapter last week in Matthew 16 is because in verse 20, Jesus, it says, then he sternly ordered his disciples not to tell anyone he was the Messiah. So Peter has just confessed to Jesus, you are the Messiah, you are the Son of God, and Jesus' immediate response is, don't tell anybody. Now this was mind-blowing because the Messiah they were expecting, the guy that they're expecting, is going to be King David part 2. All the country's going to rally behind him. They're going to kick the Romans out. They're going to retake territory. They've got it in their mind that when the Messiah comes, God is really going to bless this country, and we are going to whoop some Romans. We are going to take control of our national destiny. We're going to control stuff from the Wadi of Egypt all the way up to the Euphrates, just like God promised us. And we're going to be God's people, and this is going to be the greatest country on earth. We have a manifest destiny to do this. And that is the way the disciples thought. That's the way that the 12 apostles thought. That's the way the whole country thought. They've been going to Sabbath school their whole lives. This is what their parents, their grandparents, their great-great-great, ever since they got back into the land after the Babylonian captivity, man, there's a Messiah coming, and when he gets here, we're going to be great. It's going to be wonderful. And Jesus just said, don't tell anybody that I'm the Messiah. And in verse 21, it says this. It says, from that time on, Jesus began to show his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and undergo great suffering at the hands of the elders and the priests and the scribes and be killed, and on the third day be raised. Now, this is a moment that in the Jewish mind changes everything. The mind of his disciples changes everything. Jesus has just revealed, after 2.5, 3 years, however long it was that he's been with these guys, he's just revealed, I'm the Messiah. And he just said, don't tell nobody. And as soon as he tells that, he begins teaching them that the Messiah has to go to Jerusalem and suffer and die. That is not on any good Jewish boy's agenda. It's not. It is not what they thought the Messiah was going to do. The Messiah isn't going to be a suffering servant, even though they had that recorded in Isaiah for him. The Messiah isn't going to be a sacrifice. He's going to be a king. He's going to be King David. It's going to be greater than David or Solomon or anything when the Messiah shows up. And now Jesus is telling him, no, I've got to go and suffer and die for you. And on the third day, I'm going to be raised from the dead. That is not anybody's battle plan. That is not anybody's plan of redemption. Redemption means we're going to kick some Roman hiney. But that's not what Jesus is teaching them. They've just had that epiphany, that life-changing moment. You're the Messiah. And now Jesus is turning the tables on them in a really big way. As we go on in the chapter here, Peter takes Jesus aside. And he begins to rebuke him. Well, you just said, Peter, just a couple verses ahead, that this is the Son of God. And now you're going to straighten him out. That seems kind of different. You're the Son of God. God, don't let me do, I'm going to tell you how it's going to be, God. And if you're going, oh, Peter didn't get it. No, Peter's just like us. Peter takes him aside and begins to rebuke him, saying, God forbid it, Lord. This must never happen to you. You can't die. You can't be abused. You're the Messiah. This can't happen. But Jesus turned and said to Peter, get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me, for you are setting your mind not on divine things, but on human things. Peter, you just said I'm the Son of God. I just started telling you what's got to happen. And you're so fixated on your agenda, on the thing that you want, that you can't see straight. You think you know what God's plan is, but that's not God's plan, that's your plan. Oh, you think it's a godly plan. You can see how it could work out that way. You can fantasize about what your role in this new kingdom is going to be and how you're going to be part of this and how you're going to be loyal to it and prove yourself worthy of it. You can have all that stuff going on in your head, Peter, but those things aren't God's things. Those aren't things of God. And I think that, well, I know that I do this, so I assume other people do it too. We have a vision of how we think things should play out, don't we? An event happens and you start going, oh, well, I can see how God can do this to do this. And wouldn't that be wonderful? It's here for me to work out. I'm going to manipulate stuff to make this plan happen. But that doesn't mean it's God's plan. Just because it popped into your head does not mean it's divinely inspired. It might just be something that popped into your head. And that's what Jesus says to Peter. Peter, this isn't God's plan. This is a human plan. This is what, and yes, Peter, I know this is what every Jew wants and expects. I'm God. I know that for the last 400 years, this is all you guys have been talking about. It hasn't escaped my attention. But that's not God's plan. God's got a bigger, better plan, and he's got timing for it in a way that's going to work out wonderful. And that's something that blows my mind away, because I can see sometimes that God really does have a plan, and I can see it's in place, and I think he's going to be faithful to that plan. But he does not consult my calendar. I have got a Microsoft Word calendar that lays out what I'm doing every day, and God doesn't seem fit to schedule stuff on it. And I'm sure, well, maybe he doesn't use anything designed by Bill Gates. I don't know. That might be a sin issue. I have no idea. But he doesn't consult my time schedule, just like he didn't consult Peter's. Jesus goes on in verse 24 to explain this. And Jesus said to his disciples, "If anyone want to become my followers, let them deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake will find it. For what will it profit them if they gain the whole world but forfeit their life? Or what will they give in return for their life?" If you want to follow me, you got to put yourself to death. You got to pick up your cross and die on it. I don't know that that's top of my plan. And yet Jesus says, if you want to find your life, you got to lose your life. And if you lose your life for my sake, you will find it. Then he explains, for the Son of Man is to come with his angels in the glory of his Father, and then he will repay everyone for what has been done. God's going to sort it out. The Son of Man, Jesus, Jesus is going to sort it out one day. And he'll repay for good or for bad where people have stood. He's smart enough to figure that all out. He will make it right one day. Well, the next thing he says here is, truly I will tell you, there's some standing here who will not taste death before they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. Now, that's a timing issue that Jesus has just revealed to his disciples. Some of you guys standing here are going to see this happen before you die. Now, depending on what the timing is here between here and the crucifixion, that might only be about 6 months from when he said this to when Jesus is crucified on the cross. You're going to see me come in my kingdom. What have they all been following him for, hoping for? That they'd get to be part of his kingdom, that they would get to see the kingdom of David restored. They have the throne restored to Israel. They have all of these great things happen. And he just told them, you're going to see the kingdom. But he hasn't told them that it's going to be the kingdom that you want. He says, the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. His kingdom. Not my kingdom. Not the Jewish kingdom. Not an army. Not a worldly rule. You're going to see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. Every single one of these guys and ladies, because it was a mixed group of the disciples as a whole, every single one of them that saw the resurrected Lord saw Jesus in his kingdom. They saw the completed work of his kingdom. They saw the completed manifestation of God's will. They didn't die before they saw it. It happened in their lifetime. And that kingdom continues today. It hasn't gone away. 6 days later, Jesus took with him Peter, James, and his brother John and led them up to a high mountain by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his face shone like the sun, and his clothes became dazzling white. Suddenly they appeared to them, Moses and Elijah, talking with him. Now, I don't know how Peter and the guys knew that it was Moses and Elijah. Maybe they had a name tag, I don't know. But they knew that it was them. And all of a sudden, these three guys are standing there, and Jesus and the other two are dazzling white. They're shining with this Shekinah glory of God. Peter says to Jesus, Lord, it's good for us to be here. If you want, I will make 3 booths here, one for you, one for Moses, one for Elijah. In other words, Peter says, I think I need to get to work and build something for these guys to be here on this mountain. And while he's still speaking, suddenly a bright cloud overshadowed them, and from the cloud a voice said, This is my Son, the beloved, with whom I am well pleased. Listen to him. That would have scared me. All of a sudden, you have the voice of God coming out of a bright, shining cloud. And whatever plans it were you were making to build whatever thing it was you wanted to build. Now, this is the voice of God. Listen to my Son. I love him. Do what he says. When the disciples heard this, they fell to the ground and were overcome by fear. They heard the voice of God. They fell on their faces, scared to death. But Jesus came and touched them, saying, Get up and do not be afraid. Jesus had to go pick them up off the ground. When that happened, they looked up and they saw no one except Jesus himself alone. I don't know what Elijah and Moses talked to Jesus about. I don't know the conversation that was going on that Peter and James and John got to listen in on. Pretty sure there was one. But here is an event that changed everybody's life who witnessed it from that moment on. Peter, a week ago, confessed Jesus as Messiah. Peter's got rebuked by Jesus for trying to advance his own agenda. And here it is, the very voice of God tells Peter and James and John, This is my Son, listen to him, do what he says. Pay attention. You don't get more confirmation than God verbally telling you. As they were coming down the mountain, Jesus ordered them, Tell no one about the vision until after the Son of Man has been raised from the dead. I don't even think they know what this raised from the dead business really means at this point. They have just had the most profound religious spirit experience you could ever have. God has spoke to them directly, and they are live to tell about it. And Jesus is saying, don't tell anybody. You got to know they wanted to tell the other guys. Here they are, don't tell anybody. And the disciples asked him, Why then do the scribes say that Elijah must come first? Let's change the subject here and discuss a religious question, Jesus. He replied, Elijah is indeed coming and will restore all things. But I tell you that Elijah has already come, and they did not recognize him, but they did to him whatever they pleased. And also the Son of Man is about to suffer at their hands. Then the disciples understood he was speaking to them about John the Baptist. Jesus is pointing them back to Scripture. Now, we don't have Scripture quoted here. Jesus did not feel the necessity to quote book, chapter, and verse. Elijah's coming. Isaiah told you that. Here he is. Actually, Zechariah told him that too. Here he is. It was John the Baptist. They didn't pay attention to him. They didn't recognize him. They killed him. They're going to do the same thing to me. Jesus is telling them well in advance of it happening what's going to happen so that they'll know when they go through it what they're going through. Well, when they come to the crowd, a man came to him, knelt before him, and said, Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is an epileptic and suffers terribly. He often falls into the fire and often into the water. Somebody's other versions in here probably uses he's possessed by a demon, which is more accurate. And I brought him to your disciples, but they could not cure him. Now this is a problem because Jesus' disciples were already given the power to cast out demons and heal illnesses, and they'd actually gone out on little missionary journeys and had done that. In fact, not just the 12, there's a whole group of disciples, 70 of them that Jesus sent out at one time. And here this man is, your disciples can't cure my son. Help me. Jesus answered, you faithless and perverse generation, how much longer must I be with you? How much longer must I put up with you? I think at this point in Jesus' ministry, he's getting a little bit frustrated. Bring him here to me. And Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of him, and the boy was cured instantly. Wow, great story. Things worked out good for the man and for his son. After that happened, the disciples came to Jesus privately and said, why could we not cast it out? How come you can do this, but we couldn't? And he said to them, because of your little faith, for truly I tell you, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. In other words, you needed a little more faith. As they were gathering in Galilee, Jesus said to them, the Son of Man is going to be betrayed into human hands, and they will kill him, and on the third day he will be raised. And they were greatly distressed. He tells them again and again this same message. This is going to happen. And he doesn't just tell them once, he tells them over and over a period of time, trying to get that message through to them. When they reached Capernaum, the collectors of the temple tax came to Peter and said, does your teacher not pay the temple tax? Good question. Peter said, yes, he does. Well, of course, my master pays the temple tax. He does what he's supposed to do. When he came home, Jesus spoke of it first, asking, what do you think, Simon? From whom do the kings of the earth take toll or tribute? From their children or from others? When Peter said, from others, Jesus said to him, then the children are free. Now, this is not designed to have any influence whatsoever on what you do just prior to April 15th. Yeah, sorry. But Jesus is making a point. I don't have to pay this tax. It's my temple. But Jesus says to him, however, so we don't give offense to them, go to the sea, cast a hook, and take the first fish that comes up. When you open its mouth, you will find a coin. Take that coin and give it to them for you and for me. Now, I wish that was how it worked. All I had to do is go fishing and pay my taxes. That would be a great biblical teaching. I've just never experienced it. Little fly fishing and pop, out comes the money. That would be great. It doesn't work that way. But it does kind of give us a little bit of insight, and this is a freebie and then we'll wrap this up. It gives a little bit of insight into the age of the disciples. The temple tax was only paid by adult males who were 20 years or older. Nobody else had to pay it. When Jesus has Peter pay this tax, he has him pay it for two people. He has him pay it for Jesus, and he has him pay it for Peter. That tends to lead me to the conclusion that the other 11 disciples may not have yet been 20 years old. Now that would have been typical for most rabbis, that their disciples would have been between 13 and 18, 13, 19, 20 years old, something like that. Not a major teaching, just something to chew on and stick it in the back of your mind for the next time we have a Bible trivia question running on the overhead before church. Jesus has a wonderful moment when his disciples, through Peter, recognize him as the Messiah. You are the Messiah. But as soon as they make that confession, Jesus starts trying to teach them what that means in a way that they weren't really ready to hear. They didn't want the Messiah that Jesus was. They wanted the Messiah that they wanted. Fortunately, Jesus didn't go along with their plan. Jesus had a plan that was prophesied to Abraham would benefit the whole world. Jesus had a plan where he was going to win a battle far bigger than what the battle had been to kick the Romans out. Jesus is going to win a battle with the devil. And Jesus is playing not for just one little piece of real estate between Egypt and the Euphrates River. Jesus is playing for every soul that has ever lived. And from chapter 17 until we get to chapter 21, this is going to come up again and again and again. Jesus is going to repeatedly try to explain to his disciples, hey guys, I've got a bigger plan. This bigger plan is not going to make any sense to you when it happens, but this is what's going to happen. And by the way, 3 days after it's done, I'm going to raise from the dead. This is going to be great, guys. Just trust me on this. And nobody understood until the morning of that third day. But Jesus lays it out over and over again. That is our lesson for this morning. If you have a need, whether it's for prayer, whether it's for something else, this congregation wants to help you. If you would let us know what that need is as we're singing this song, that would be wonderful. Dan?